fun to see how the players kind of think about how to exchange resources in this matchup. How to use your copies of Remand, when to use your Snapcaster Mages, how many pieces of the Twin Combo do you want, when to go for it and when not to go for it. All of that stuff it's really not how my mind works, but it certainly does for these two players.
What's also interesting is a lot of the goal of the mirror match here is to get yourself in a position where you're kind of chipping away at the other person's life total. You know, you play a Deceiver Exarch, you hit for a point a turn. You flash in a Snapcaster Mage and flash back a Bolt and apply a little bit of pressure. Force the other person to respond to your board, and that can give you the opportunity to sneak a Splinter Twin kill through. It's very rare that someone can just go turn 3, pester my turn 4 Splinter Twin. Happens sometimes, but it's pretty rare. The life total matters a lot in this matchup because it forces the other person to act when they get behind.
Players are going to kick things off with a couple copies of Serum Visions, one on each side of the table. There's going to be some scry action here, too, as our quarterfinals are underway here in Charlotte. We crown a champion here soon. And it looks like Party kept a 6-card hand, so he had to take 1 mulligan, play a Scalding Tarn in his land at number 2. This is a deck that can afford to take a mulligan.
Though the mirror match is a lot of trading of resources.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a pure speed matchup, even though both decks, again, capable of executing the kill on turn 4. Not that frequent to see it.
Serum Visions will put 1 card on the top and 1 card on the bottom for Wesley C. He'll play a copy of Sulphur Falls and pass the turn back. Party very quickly will sacrifice the Scalding Tarn, search up his Steam Vents, and we'll be moving to his 3rd turn here in just a moment. Of course, when we do have any results of our other matches, we will let you know, as we're doing our quarterfinals all at the same time here before we get ready for our semis, then eventually our finals and crown our champion.
A lot of combo in the top 8.
Not much of a surprise.
Hybrid combo decks, you can call them, I suppose.
Yeah.
2 copies of Blue-Red Twin and a copy of Elves, which I would lump into the hybrid combo space. And then we have a couple pure combo decks squaring off in the 1-8 matchup, Goryo's Vengeance and Ad Nauseam.
Deceiver Exarch is going to be joining the battlefield here for Party on Wesley C's upkeep, targeting his Sulphur Falls. There's another copy of Sulphur Falls, and I'm curious if Party, if he has a twin, if he just says, you know what, I'm just going to put the pedal to the metal and go for this. There is the red land, here is Splinter Twin. And the Spell Pierce is rather timely. So that's good for Wesley C. No attacks there from Party either.
A little odd to see a no attack there.
Maybe a little hasty for Sam, as there's a Desolate Lighthouse. Here's an attack now. The follow-up is a Sulphur Falls. Now here's a Deceiver Exarch. See if Party has any interest in letting this resolve. Looks like he will, as it just does tap a Sulphur Falls. Here comes Deceiver Exarch, no Splinter Twin pre-combat. 1 damage will come across. So Exarch will just be chipping away right now. Here's a Vendilion Clique. Party, you want to see a little bit of what's going on here. One thing I always find interesting too with Splinter Twin is some players just always go for it.
Yep.
Just ram and jam and just hope for the best. And some players are very cautious and maybe sometimes even too scared to go for it.
Well, that was a very aggressive use there by Sam because he had Dispel. He could have tried to go for it on turn 5 with Dispel backup, but not a whole lot of cards that really punish Sam that badly in that spot. If it get countered, not the end of the world. You're not going to get 2 for 1 there with some removal spell in response to your Deceiver Exarch, and a reasonable gamble.
Vendilion Clique going to show you an Electrolyze, a Deceiver Exarch, a Pestermind, Misty Rainforest, and a Stomping Ground. We'll see if Sam wants to take any of those cards. It appears he does not. And Wesley will just pass the turn back over to Party. Here comes Vendilion Clique and Deceiver Exarch. You know, perhaps Sam was just hoping that it would get remanded and not Spell Pierce.
Right.
See, you go sacrifice Scalding Tarn, get an island. You might see Electrolyze here in just a moment.
Yeah, pretty big display of strength there from Sam, not willing to take the Electrolyze out of hand with the Vendilion Clique.
Notable for sure. It's time for Deceiver Exarch. Perhaps this will be targeting one of Wesley C's resources.
I believe Sam probably leaving it in hand because of the Dispel in his hand.
Yep. Here's Electrolyze. There is Dispel. So see, we'll untap. It's time to take a draw. Life total's in favor of Party right now. There's a Misty Rainforest. See Wesley going to organize some mana. This is an attempt at a Splinter Twin. That'll be a Deceiver Exarch. Targeting the Deceiver Exarch. That is being enchanted by Splinter Twin. So that's Sam's answer for right now. It's not a great one. Here's a copy of Peak. He's looking to
Coast
run
is
into
clear.
a... Yeah.
He's got a kill spell, he's fine. If he has Twin, he's fine. And otherwise, he's dead.
Here's a Serum Visions. Draw a card. An Exarch in hand. That doesn't help all that much, though. No Splinter Twin. You can see no red cards there. We'll pass the turn back. Party trying to represent some strength here. There's an island. Here's an activation. And that is going to do it. Wesley C is going to win game number 1 here over Sam Pardee. The blue-red twin mirror is going to go to the player on the left right now, but this is where things get a little bit more interesting because now we kind of play this weird posturing game of do we leave in the board, do we leave in the pieces, excuse me, do we board them out? And you can see the sideboards here available. We'll go over them right now. We'll start with Pardee and the Spellskite. His Grim Lavamancer is 2 Blood Moons, 2 Ancient Grudge, a Negate, a Rending Volley, a Teferi, Mage of Zhalfir, 2 Keranos, God of Storms, a Jace Architect of Thought, 2 Anger of the Gods, and a Roast.
So definitely interested in the counterspell here. Then the Negate, I think Rending Volley, also very potent here. The Spellskite is very good, facilitating the combo or protecting Sam from the combo as well. I think the Teferi is very powerful in this matchup. I'm not sure if he's going to want to do the full swap here into Keranos and Jace and so forth. It's very dangerous to tap out for those kind of cards in the mirror matches. They can often result in you getting killed. But if he thinks that Wesley is also slowing down, those cards start becoming more viable.
On Wesley's side, he's got a Battered Skull, a Spellskite, a Sower of Temptation. Only 1 Blood Moon in his sideboard this weekend, but he also has a Teferi, a Keranos, a Jace Architect of Thought, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Ancient Grudge, a Dismember, a Dispel, and 2 Negates.
It's much the same story here. I really like the Teferi, the 2 Negates, the Dispel, the Dismember. The Sower of Temptation I think is pretty solid here, and the Dismember. Then the question becomes, are Keranos and Jace viable cards to bring in? They match up kind of poorly against some of the cheaper counterspells. They also come with the risk of just dying. But if the game slows down a lot, they're very potent weapons.
It is update time. And actually all matches now are headed to game number 2 as Darian Elderfield with Ad Nauseam does win game number 1 over Zach Jesse. A little surprising there.
Yes, but there are 2 decks they're just passing in the night. 2 ships passing in the night, and sometimes one of those decks is either going to have a failed draw or the other one's going to have a super explosive draw, and upsets can happen that way.
We've got Michael Malone with the Elves with Collected Company up a game over Donald Smith playing Burn. I think we felt that was going to happen.
Burn's got some tools. The searing effects are very powerful. Eidolon's going to have spots of being good. Grim Lavamancer is exceptional, but I think the Elf deck is just a lot faster, and it's able to block. That's a really important thing. A lot of the combo decks in the format are vulnerable to turn 1 Goblin Guide speeding up the game too much. Not Elves. You can flood the board with a lot of creatures and block and trade.
Another result that we actually kind of expected, Andrew Wagner with Affinity up a game over Ian Bosley playing Obzon Company.
Yeah, I don't. That's the one matchup in the quarters that I know probably the least of how to make of it. Affinity does seem a half step faster to me, and there aren't that many haymakers in the Collected Company deck to get game 1. Changed a little bit after board, especially with Kitaki, but for game 1, certainly I like the Affinity side.
And of course, in this matchup right here, Wesley C up a game over Samuel Pardee. These players sideboarding, getting ready to probably board into some version of control decks. Remember as well, both players have access to each other's sideboard and deck lists, so they know exactly what each other are working with, which also makes this game of, I suppose, cat and mouse a little more interesting.
Yeah. It's always fascinating with the twin mirrors or twin against almost any deck that packs removal, how the sideboarding is going to go, especially when they have access to each other's deck lists.
Very, very interesting stuff here thus far. Sam Pardee again looking to get to gold. 2 wins. That's all he needs, even though he already has 13 of them this weekend. My goodness. He's had one heck of a tournament. And can't forget, he's a Grand Prix champion in Portland, too.
These tournaments are a slog. I mean, no 2 ways about it. They're really fun, but you have to spend the entire weekend just winning nearly all of your matches to be even able to sniff the top 8.
Yeah.
And, we had players fall right outside the top 8 Patrick Chapin, Paul Rietzel, who finished in 9th and 10th place. They were 13-2. They had 3 byes and went 10-2 in the matches they actually played. And that was still not enough to top 8 this tournament because of its size.
You know, at the end of the day, the narrative coming in this tournament was all about the big mana decks that did well at the Season 2 Invitational and the main event of the Star Games Open Series last weekend, with Amulet Bloom and Green Red Tron being so good. And we felt this would be a natural response, just going to Twin.
Yeah, Twin's very good against those decks. You don't even have to sideboard all that much to keep the matchup good, too. You don't have to go through all these hoops. And if the Jund decks of the world, if they're using more of their sideboard bandwidth on cards like Fulminator Mage to try to keep those decks off balance, it's good news for you. I mean, all these decks have really are the 2 copies of Blood Moon, and that's something that they'd probably be playing anyway.
Both these players will take a look at their opening hand here. Pardee will be on the play. Wesley C with a very impressive win, game number 1. Wesley's happy, Pardee's happy. Going to start by sacrificing a Scalding Tarn, a basic island. And I imagine we'll probably see a Serum Visions here in just a moment from Pardee. Just a lot of combo. I know a lot of people chiming in on Twitter as you see the Serum Visions being cast by Pardee. Remand among the options here for Sam. He's going to leave 1 card on top, 1 card on bottom, wondering how Patrick Chapin finished up 9th place on Breakers.
Yep, 13-2.
Still a great tournament for Chapin. Paul Rietzel, 10th place.
13-2.
Yep. Tiebreakers can be a jerk sometimes.
I think my first Grand Prix top 8, I think, was a record of X3-1, and that's not a thing anymore.
Here's the Serum Visions for Wesley as well. Both players started the last game this way. So we'll be going back Pardee's way in just a moment. As C would like to figure out how he wants to scry around these cards. I imagine, again, these decks are probably going to turn into control decks, but they might leave some pieces in. Pardee will take a draw step.
Well, Wesley has Twin in hand, so he's left in some. I think that without the 3rd color, you just don't have enough cards that are viable in your sideboard to be able to make the full swap. So I think the combo stays in. It's possible the full combo stays in, that they don't touch it at all.
Serum Visions. Scry 1 on top, 1 on bottom. Scalding Tarn. Pass the turn back to Pardee. Pardee will take a draw step. He'll play a Sulphur Falls right now. Pass the turn back over to C. Here's Deceiver Exarch yet again. We saw Sam last game just say, 4th land, Splinter Twin, come and get it. And C had a Spell Piercer at the ready for that. Scalding Tarn going to be sacrificed here by C in response to the Deceiver Exarch. There is Steam Vents and 2 damage being dealt. And there's a Remand on the Deceiver Exarch. C will draw a card now, but he is tapped out for his turn, so probably doesn't have a ton to do. He also draws a card from the Remand as well, of course. Scalding Tarn, a passing of the turn. Pardee will untap and take a draw step. There is Scalding Tarn. Just pass the turn back. C will take this opportunity to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, go down to 15. Perhaps another Steam Vent's on the way.
I imagine we're just going to see a repeat of last turn on the upkeep. Wesley's already taking a lot of damage off the lands, and this is the position that I like Sam trying to get himself into, where he can tax the life total a little bit, force a response, and maybe be able to combo up if Wesley taps too low, or burn him out even.
Here's Exarch again. Tap down his Steam Vents. C will draw a card. Does have Remand in hand. You mentioned the Splinter Twin as well. There's a Cavern of Souls. So we get confirmation on what this names. Pardee will take this opportunity to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn. Cavern of Souls is going to name Wizard now. Party will take a draw step. Another copy Deceiver Exarch. He's going to come across for one right now. You can get some chip shots in here if you'd like. Got another Deceiver Exarch in hand. Can kind of play that type of game that we've seen Twin do so much this weekend.
Bolton Electrolyze as well.
Yep. There's a Ghost Quarter. There's another Exarch, this time on the end step. Another update here for you guys very quickly. Andrew Wagner with Affinity, Ian Bosley with Abzan Collective Company. They're heading to game number 3. Those guys aren't wasting any time.
No. Affinity versus a creature combo deck, probably going to be pretty fast.
Yeah. Deceiver Exarch's going to come in through the cavern, so that can't be countered, as it is a wizard after all. Pardee going to cast a copy of Remand. Perhaps that did not go through the cavern. It didn't. Interesting. All right, I apologize. Cavern was tapped previously with the Deceiver Exarch.
Yep.
It looked like he was tapping for mana there, so my apologies.
I like this post-board setup here from Sam. You know, before we got into the match, this is how I thought the game would look a little bit more like this. Someone trying to get a little bit ahead on the board and then just chip away.
Here's 5 mana. Oh, boy.
Teferi.
That's a wizard.
Long time no see.
That's awesome. That's a wizard through it. That is so awesome. Teferi through a cavern. Well, well, well.
And if you have not seen this card in play before, it is gruesome.
In a blue mirror, this is a disaster. This is a true disaster. Now, Pardee has one of these in his sideboards. He's probably used this to great effect, but this is really bad news for Pardee.
Though the first line of text is pretty funny in a deck where all the creatures have flash.
Sure.
But it's that last line over there.
Yeah, each opponent can only play spells as a sorcery. A couple points of damage are going to come across. It just takes away the flexibility of the deck. So now Sammy has to do something ridiculous like Electrolyze right now. Totally contorts the way he can play the game.
This card is a disaster.
Yeah. This might be just the ace in the hole for Twin Mirrors. And Sam has actually found his copy of Teferi. Now Lightning Bolt's going to try to finish it off. And the tough part here is for Sam, he's left with no choice. He has to do this now.
Yeah, Sam can't play. He basically can't play Magic while this card's in play. All of his sideboard, counter spells, everything he's trying to do here just does not work.
Yep, there's Negate to protect it.
I think Sam's...
I think he might just be dead.
I think he's just dead.
Yeah.
If the combo's there, there's nothing to do.
Yep. Yep, that's it. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Teferi, Mage of Zalfir, is going to get it done here for Wesley C. He'll take care of Sam Pardee. A little bit of an upset here considering the resumes of these two players, but Wesley's looking to add to his, and he just got a big W here to move on to the semifinals.
I thought the land that mattered the most was Sam's second copy of Desolate Lighthouse, but that's not how that went. The Cavern of Souls naming Wizard into Teferi there was something Sam just could not work around.
Unbelievable. What a beating Teferi is in this matchup. And that's why both players have it in their sideboard, and it's strange to say, but after a long, grueling 2 days, that match, 19 minutes.
And people usually slow down their pace of play a little bit.
Yeah.
When you get to the top 8, you know, you're a little bit more thoughtful. And both these players clearly knew the operations of their deck very well. And Wesley just, game 1, took a pretty opportunistic movement to go for the combo there and got it off. And then in game 2, an uncounterable Teferi was way too much for Sam to overcome.
Unbelievable. Congratulations to Wesley C. He is moving on to the semifinals. He's going to play the winner of Andrew Wagner playing Affinity against Ian Bosley playing Collective Company. Tournament can end so fast sometimes, you know?
That's something I've actually appreciated more and more about Modern as I've covered this tournament and the tournaments last weekend is